Black Janitor found a wallet. What he did next shocked the billionaire owner. The night was almost over when the vacuums went quiet and the city yawned awake. The carpets on floor 62 of Halcyon Tower still smelled like lemon, and the lights made the glass walls glow like morning snow. Darius Cole moved alone from chair to chair, lifting them with steady hands, setting them down with care. He was tall, a little stooped from years of lifting things no one else saw. He wore a navy work shirt with his name stitched in white. He kept to the corners. He wiped smudges that others swore did not exist. People walked past him like he was air, and he did not blame them. Invisible men kept the world from falling apart. Tonight, when he bent to push a chair back under the long conference table, his glove brushed something near the floor. It was a crocodile skin wallet wedged under a chrome leg, dark and heavy, the kind of heavy that carries a life inside it. He looked around. The blue ring of a tiny camera blinked from the ceiling. The clock on the wall said 4:52 a.m. He picked up the wallet and felt its weight in his palm. He opened it just enough to see a driver's license that stared back at him like a news headline. Victor Hale, the owner of the whole tower. The man whose face sat on magazine covers at the airport. The man who built glass for a living. Darius felt his breath catch. There were black cards inside. A few crisp bills. A metal key like a sliver of a moon. This moment could turn into any kind of story, depending on who told it. The cameras could frame him as a thief. His hands could choose something small and call it need. But he had already picked his story years ago. He slipped the wallet into a clear zip bag from his cart, sealed it, and wrote the time with a marker. Then he pulled a folded paper from his chest pocket, a page soft from being handled, and looked at it like a compass. It was a plan, made simple on purpose, the same way he made his bed, GED classes, childcare stipends, bus passes for the people who cleaned while others slept. He had gathered signatures beside the coffee machines and service elevators, quiet names from guards and dishwashers and the woman who wiped the big marble lion in the lobby. He looked back at the camera, lifted the bag to show what he held, then tucked it into his cart and rolled away, the wheels whispering. The morning air outside was gray and thin, smelling like wet concrete and fried eggs from a street cart turning on its grill. Darius signed out at the service desk and took the first bus east, where the skyline broke into old brick and long shadows. The East River shelter sat behind a chain-link fence that buzzed with a broken light. This was where he mopped on weekends for a little extra, and where the world felt honest. Inside, the hall smelled like bleach and weak coffee. A woman named Lorna, who ran the desk with eyes that missed nothing, looked up at him and smiled. "You're early, Dee." He nodded and asked to use the copier. The machine groaned awake like a tired dog. He spread his plan on the glass. The page had small boxes and simple numbers. It had felt like a dream when he first drew it, but now the boxes looked like doors he could open with the right key. The copier light moved and sent out warm sheets one after another. He counted them, 20, 30, 40, then stapled each set. He slid the original back into his pocket where the fold lines felt like rails on his heart. He filled a paper cup with coffee that tasted like pennies and hope, and he waited for the sun to fully rise. On the wall behind him, a TV showed silent news clips of Victor Hale walking through a ribbon-cutting ceremony, his smile sharp, his suit sharper. The caption read, "Hale announces new tech wing." Darius watched the moving lips and thought of the wallet, sealed and quiet, in his cart. He thought of cameras and bosses and the line between right and wrong that sometimes looked like fog. He set the cup down and told Lorna he had to go. "Big day?" she asked, like she already knew. "Big enough," he said. As he left, the shelter's door creaked with a familiar ache, like an old friend who still stands and still holds. By noon, the tower had turned into a hive. Elevators opened and closed with a soft sigh. The lobby smelled like lilies and new money. Darius came through the staff entrance with his shirt pressed and his eyes set. He held the zip bag with the wallet inside, plus the copies of his plan and the pages of signatures he had collected. The security desk was a square island of glass that sat like a hard truth. A guard named Mateo, broad shoulders, kind jaw, tired eyes, looked up and straightened. They knew each other from the night shift. "You good, Dee?" Mateo asked. Darius nodded but felt the heat rise under his collar. "I need to see Mr. Hale," he said, each word neat and steady. "It's about something he lost." Mateo's eyes flicked to the bag. A slow frown formed. "You sure you don't want to give that to me?" "I can log it." Darius held the bag a little closer. "I have to hand it to him." Mateo studied him. "There are men you learn to believe because they never cut corners, not even when no one watches." Mateo picked up the phone, spoke low, listened, and then hung up. "Go to 62. His assistant will meet you." Darius thanked him and walked toward the staff elevator. Halfway there, a second guard stepped in front of him. New face, neat haircut, hard eyes. "What's in the bag?" the guard asked. Darius showed the wallet through the plastic. "Not yours," the guard said. "Could have taken it," Darius replied, calm. "Didn't." The new guard held out a hand anyway. Darius looked at Mateo. Mateo nodded once, the kind of nod that says, "I vouch for this man." The new guard stepped aside. Darius pressed the button for 62. The doors closed like a mouth holding a secret. As the car rose, the numbers blinked. 12, 19, 26, 33. His ears popped. He breathed. He pictured the plan the way he pictured a child sleeping. Gentle, fragile, worth protecting. The assistant was waiting by a frosted glass door at the far end of the floor. She wore a gray dress and a watch that looked more like a decision than an accessory. "I'm Ana Reyes," she said. "Mr. Hale has 5 minutes." Darius nodded. 5 minutes could change a life or let it slide back under a door. Anna's eyes were quick, moving from the bag to his face to his hands. She opened the door and led him through a hall lined with photos of buildings catching sunset light. The office beyond was all angles and sky. The windows reached up, and the city lay below like a blueprint. Victor Hale stood by the glass, hands in his pockets, a man who seemed to belong to the weather. He turned, and for a second his eyes didn't land on Darius at all. They slowed on the bag, then on the stitches of Darius's name. "You found something?" Hale asked. His voice was even, the kind of even that cost money. Darius stepped forward. "Yes, sir." He placed the clear bag on the edge of the desk. The wallet sat inside like a quiet animal. "Where?" Hale said. "Under a chair in the big conference room. Floor 62, 4 to 52 a.m. Darius kept his words short. Men like Hale did not love stories that wandered. Hale opened the bag, checked the license, thumbed the cards, and then looked up. "Everything here?" "Every cent," Darius said. "I didn't spend your money." He set the stack of copied pages down beside the bag. "But you could." The sentence hung in the air like a bridge. Anna shifted, her eyebrows tightening. Hale blinked once, maybe twice. He picked up the top page. The title was simple: Night Shift Education and Dignity Fund. Under it, 3 lines: GED classes, child care stipends, bus passes. Then bullet points, costs, and blank lines filled with signatures that looked like small brave flags. The room grew very still. The city below kept moving. "Explain," Hale said at last. "Not unkind, not kind, just a line." Darius did not swallow. He did not shrink. He spoke like he cleaned, thorough and precise. He told him about the guard upstairs who could not afford the exam fee to finish school. He told him about the dishwasher with 2 babies who paid more for child care than she earned on Mondays and Tuesdays combined. He told him about the elevator tech who slept on a bus some nights to save the fare back and forth. He told him about people who carried keys to rooms they would never sit in, people who learned the steps of the rich without learning their own worth. He set out the numbers. He showed how a few $1,000s a month could clear a path that had been blocked for years. He did not ask for pity. He asked for power used well. Hale listened with his chin tucked and one thumb running along the edge of the paper. "And what do you get?" Hale asked. Darius met his eyes. "What I always wanted," he said. "A fair floor. Not the marble kind. The kind you can stand on without slipping." Anna's eyes softened a little, the way eyes do when a puzzle piece clicks. Hale set the paper down, picked up the bag again, then set it down once more. He walked to the window and looked at the river like it owed him an answer. "You know," he said, his voice a shade quieter, People come in here every day and pitch me things. Apps, funds, towers. No one ever walked in with a wallet and a plan to spend my money on people who clean my buildings." Darius waited. The clock on the wall ticked like a metronome for a hard song. A long silence passed, the kind that tests the bones of a thing. Finally, Hale turned, slid open a drawer, and took out a sheet of paper with letterhead that gleamed, "The Hale Foundation." He signed his name with a pen that looked heavy, then slid the page across the desk and tapped it twice. "Start today," he said. "Bus passes, childcare, GED classes. We'll set up a pilot for 6 months across 3 buildings. If the numbers do what you claim, we expand." Darius did not smile big. He nodded once like a promise. "I'll tell the night shift," he said. "Tell them the wallet paid for the right things." Anna let out a breath she had been holding. Hale picked up his wallet and slid it into his back pocket, lighter now in a way that had nothing to do with cash. The first turning point should have ended there, but stories do not love straight lines. As Darius reached for the doorknob, the office door opened from the other side, and a man in a navy suit stepped in with a face like polished stone. "Victor," the man said, eyes flicking to Darius and the papers on the desk. "We have a problem." This was Conrad Voss, head of corporate risk, the kind of man who only believed in 2 words: liability and leverage. He nodded at Darius, but it was not a greeting. It was a quick scan. "We caught an alert from the cameras. Our janitor here took possession of your wallet and left the building. He came back with copies. That's irregular." Darius felt a small fire rise in his stomach but kept still. Hale didn't sit. He stayed standing like a referee. "He returned it," Hale said. "Untouched," Anna added, her voice firm now, a small shield raised. Conrad's smile was thin. "Untouched is a claim. We need certainty. We also need to consider the precedent of employees pitching causes in exchanges for favors." "Stop," Hale said, and the word had a blade in it. "There were no favors requested for himself." He tapped the plan. "He showed me numbers. He showed me signatures." Conrad didn't flinch. "Signatures can be coerced. Cameras capture angles we can't ignore. If this gets out, the story won't be generous billionaire funds night workers. It will be employee holds wallet, secures deal. You see the risk." Darius heard the word holds and tasted metal. He stepped forward, slow and clear. "Mr. Voss, I held the wallet to protect it. I put it in a bag and wrote the time. I left a message with the lobby that I was bringing it back. I made copies of a plan I've had for years. The wallet brought me into the room. My work keeps me here." Conrad met his gaze. He was used to men backing up. Darius did not. Hale looked between them like a man measuring a bridge before he drives a heavy truck across. "Conrad," he said, "draft the pilot agreement. I'm signing it now. If you need to run post-incident checks on the wallet for your peace of mind, do it. But do not mistake caution for a break. We move." Conrad's jaw tightened. He lifted his hands in a small surrender and left the room with papers biting under his arm. The door shut with a polite click, but the threat stayed in the air like the smell of smoke after a match. The second turning point came fast. News in towers travels like wind through vents. By the time Darius reached the service elevator, rumors had already built a story with teeth. They say you found a bag of cash. They say you tried to cut a side deal. They say you blackmailed the boss man. Darius kept walking. Matteo met him halfway. "What happened?" he asked, all concern, no gossip. Darius gave him the short truth. "I returned what wasn't mine. He funded what is ours." Matteo stared, then laughed once, not because it was funny, but because joy sometimes sneaks out as a laugh. "You serious?" "Yes." "They'll fight you," Matteo said. "I know." "Then we'll stand," Matteo said, and his hand gripped Darius's shoulder with brother strength. They rode the elevator down. Doors opened to the whisper of mops and the click of carts. People looked at Darius like he had gone to the moon and come back with air. He gathered them in the break room. Guards in navy shirts, cleaners with damp sleeves, a dishwasher with a baby picture stuck in her phone case. The room smelled like coffee and lemon and years. Darius placed the paper on the table. He spoke slow, plain. Bus passes, childcare, GED classes. Starting this month. It's a pilot. We have to show up, sign up, and pass the classes. We have to use the passes. We have to track it all. If it works, we get more. If it fails, they'll say we don't need it. Silence held for a beat, then broke like rain on a hot day. People asked questions. How to apply, where to meet, what to do if the baby is sick. Lorna from the shelter had sent a message too. We can host tutoring on Sundays. Darius felt the room breathe bigger. He looked at each face and saw the same cautious hope, the kind that comes after too many years of maybe. When the meeting ended, he stayed behind to mop a coffee spill. Old habit. Never leave a mess for someone else. He didn't see Conrad Voss standing in the hall, watching through the glass with a phone in his hand. He didn't hear the voice on the other end say, "If this goes south, we blame the janitor." He just kept cleaning. The third turning point arrived late that night like a storm that had been hiding behind a hot day. Darius finished his shift and was walking toward the bus stop when he saw blue and red lights flare across the wet street. 2 police cars, a company SUV, Conrad Voss standing with a folder. Mateo stepped out of the doorway as if weighing the space between law and people. Darius approached, slow. "Mr. Cole," a uniformed officer said, "we need to ask you some questions about a possible misuse of company property." "What property?" Darius asked, calm but ready. "A wallet," Conrad said, voice smooth. "We have an internal protocol." There were deviations. Darius held his breath and felt his chest hold steady. "I returned it. The owner signed a foundation document." "We are not contesting that," Conrad said. "We are contesting the process. For our shareholders, we must show we pursued every irregular step." The officer's eyes flicked between men with suits and men with scuffed shoes. "You coming with us, sir?" Mateo spoke up. "He's not under arrest." The officer shrugged. "Not yet." Darius looked at Conrad. He understood now. This was not about a wallet. This was about making him small so the story stayed neat for people up top. He checked the time on his phone. 10:19 p.m. He had somewhere to be at 10:30, the shelter's first sign-up for GED classes. If he missed it, others would miss it too. He lifted his chin. "Officer, I will come to the station after I deliver people to a class we just funded. You can follow me. You can stand in the room. You can see what we do with what we got." The officer looked at Conrad. Conrad's mouth twitched. He did not like losing control. "You have 10 minutes, the officer said at last. "We'll be there." Darius nodded. He started walking toward the bus stop, but Mateo grabbed his keys and said, "Not tonight. We drive." The company SUV tailed them down the avenue, the police lights off, but power still obvious. The city flickered past, neon and brick, old and new, all of it watching. They reached the shelter with 2 minutes to spare. Lorna had set out plastic chairs and a whiteboard. A young teacher named Carmen Liu erased the last of a math problem with a sleeve. People shifted in their seats, nervous, excited. The police stood in the doorway like rain clouds. Conrad leaned against the frame, silent and sharp. Darius stepped to the front and spoke like he was passing a lit candle from hand to hand. "We have 10 minutes to prove this matters. Write your names. Pick your class times. If child care is the barrier, say it. If the bus is the barrier, say it. We will not hide our need like it is shame." A woman in a navy cleaning shirt raised her hand. "What if my boss says I can't change my hours for classes?" Darius said, "Bring me his name." A guard said, "What if I fail?" "Then you take it again," Darius said. "Failing once is practice. Failing twice is strategy. Failing 3 times means the class needs a new teacher." Laughter, soft but real, spread like warmth. Pens scratched. Carmen handed out placement tests. The police watched, then began to look bored, then started to look human. One of them asked Carmen for a pencil like he might sit too. Conrad checked his watch again and again. At exactly 10 minutes he cleared his throat. "Time," he said. Darius turned to the officers. "You saw what we did," he said. "You can take me now." The officer glanced at the sign-up sheet, line after line of names, phone numbers, shifts, babysitters, bus routes. He looked at Conrad, then at Darius. "No need," he said. "Internal matter. We don't do press for that." He tipped 2 fingers at Lorna and left. Conrad stayed a heartbeat longer than he had to, eyes hard, jaw tighter. Then he walked out, the door catching his shoulder as if the building itself wanted to keep him from leaving with his old story intact. The pilot program began on a Monday that smelled like rain and hot paper. Bus passes arrived in a stack with a silver band. Child care stipends were set up through a simple form that even the most tired brain could understand at midnight. GED classes met on the shelter's 2nd floor. Carmen taught math like it was a language anyone could learn because it is. A volunteer named Mr. Patel taught reading with patience that felt like a chair after a long shift. Darius kept working his nights, kept mopping, kept replacing trash bags with the same quiet pride. And then, on breaks, he sorted forms, answered questions, and fixed small things that could have become large problems if left alone. He learned new names: Amaya, who held 2 jobs and wanted to be a nurse; Roland, who had been a guard for 17 years and wanted to teach his son about fractions without feeling shame; Keisha, who could take apart a vacuum faster than a mechanic and dreamed of an apprenticeship in building maintenance. Week by week, the numbers started whispering a story. Late arrivals went down where bus passes existed. Sick day calls shrank for parents who finally had childcare money. People signed up for extra shifts on days when they had class because pride does that. It makes you want to build more when the ground feels steady. Darius kept track. He wrote it all down in a plain notebook. Names, dates, outcomes. No one could argue with a notebook, not forever. Sometimes at night he would stand in a hallway that smelled like lemon and think of his mother teaching him to fold a shirt tight. "Make it neat," she had said. Neat gives you room to breathe. He folded this new life the same way. Neat. It could have been smooth after that. It wasn't. A month in, an email leaked. Not the plan. Not the numbers. Something worse to people who love gossip. A grainy photo from the first night, taken by a camera in the lobby showing Darius's hand holding the clear bag with the wallet inside. The caption on a tabloid site read, "Janitor holds boss's wallet, gets pile of cash for friends." The story ran quick and dirty. Comment sections poured poison. A radio host laughed about wallet politics. Shareholders sent tight emails. Hale's board scheduled a special review. Anna came to find Darius in the middle of his shift. Her face showed both fight and fear. "They want you at the board meeting tomorrow," she said. "Some of them want to end the pilot." Darius felt the old cold creep up his spine, the same cold he felt when a supervisor once blamed him for a spill he did not make. He nodded. "What do they want me to say?" "They want you to flinch," she said. "So don't." He went home to his small room that smelled like soap and fried onions from the neighbor's kitchen. He laid out his shirt for the next day. He polished his shoes with an old t-shirt until they reflected a thin, honest shine. He slept only a little, the kind of sleep that feels like closing a door for a second during a fire drill. The boardroom looked different during the day. Sun filled it like a clean sheet. Men and women in sharp suits sat around a table that could have held a small car. Conrad was there, of course, with a binder. Hale sat at the head, eyes clear but face lined with choices. Anna sat near the screen, hands ready. A large display showed the tabloid headline with letters that screamed. "Mr. Cole," a board member said, a woman with silver hair and steady glasses, "we appreciate your presence. We must ask direct questions. Do you believe it was appropriate to leave the building with the CEO's wallet?" "No," Darius said. "It was necessary." A murmur. She tilted her head. "Explain the necessity." "The shelter's copier," Darius said simply. "I needed to make enough copies to give this plan to the only man who could sign it. If I had handed the wallet to the wrong person first, I never would have been let near this room. The camera knows where the wallet went. The plan shows why." Conrad leaned forward. "And why should this company fund your personal agenda?" Darius did not let heat burn his words. "People who clean your buildings also build your mornings. If they have bus passes, they show up on time. If they have childcare, they don't miss shifts. If they earn GEDs, some stay and rise, and some leave for better jobs. Both are wins. Your buildings run better. Your image gets stronger. Your people stop feeling like ghosts. He looked at Hale, not pleading, just connecting. I didn't ask for my rent. I didn't ask for my own raise. I asked for the floor to be fair. You cannot build towers on tired backs forever. Silence. You could hear the HVAC hum. Anna clicked the remote and the screen changed to a slide with numbers. Absences down 23% in participating teams. Late arrivals down 31%. Overtime coverage faster by 19% because workers traded shifts more easily when childcare was covered. A second slide showed faces. Amaya holding up a GED test with a high score, Roland helping his son with math at a folding table, Keisha wearing a tool belt at an apprenticeship orientation. Anna's voice was calm. These are our people. This is what they did with a small fair shot. Conrad spoke again, softer now. Public perception is not nothing. The story out there looks bad. Hale finally leaned forward, elbows on the table. Then we change the story by telling the truth, he said. We don't retreat from good work because of a lazy headline. He turned to Darius. Anything else? Darius took a breath. Some truths are old wounds. He had not planned to share this last part. But stories choose their doors. I was 18, he said. My mother got sick. I dropped out to work nights. I told myself I'd go back. Years went by. I learned every floor wax brand like a language. I learned which trash cans overflow first and which meeting rooms hide coffee stains under the tables. I learned pride in work that no one sees. But I never learned the last chapter of the book I promised myself I'd finish. That is what this is about. Not me, the promise. Let people keep their promises. The woman with silver hair took off her glasses and cleaned them with a napkin. When she put them back on, her eyes shone. Motion to continue the pilot for the full term and approve expansion triggers if targets hold, she said. Hands went up. Conrad's did not. It didn't matter. The motion carried. Sometimes endings don't roar. They arrive like a door opening into a warmer room. The tabloid story faded under a new headline a week later. Night workers graduate first GED class. Tower owner attends. The photo showed Victor Hale standing in the back of the shelter's hall, clapping while Carmen handed out certificates that had weight not because of the paper, but because of the hours behind them. Hale spoke briefly that night, a short speech without the shiny words people buy in bulk. I had a father who never finished high school, he said. He carried sheetrock upstairs until his knees gave out. If one person had put a bus pass in his hand and a class near his home, he might have had choices. We are giving choices. He sat down, and for once he did not look like a distant man with a perfect view. He looked like someone who had come down the stairs to see what the floor feels like. After the ceremony, he found Darius by the coffee urns. You should run the fund, Hale said. Part-time at first. Keep your night shift if you want, until the program needs you full-time. Darius smiled with the side of his mouth. I still like clean rooms, he said. I also like clean chances. Hale nodded. You can keep both clean. They shook hands. Not like a boss and an employee, like men who had chosen the same story and were now stuck with each other in the best way. Months rolled forward. The pilot hit its targets, then passed them. New buildings joined. Lorna added a second class night and convinced the city to send a free nurse once a week for health checks. Carmen trained 2 more teachers. Mr. Patel retired with a small party and a cake that said, "Thank you," in crooked blue letters. Keisha finished her apprenticeship early and took a job in the same tower where she once cleaned, her tool belt heavy with purpose. Amaya started community college at night. Roland came to the shelter on Tuesdays to help other dads with homework tricks. The fund developed a small logo, a mop crossed with a pencil, simple and true. It appeared on bus passes and classroom folders. On one early morning, when the city was still deciding what to be that day, Darius walked the empty floor 62 and paused by the big window. He looked down at the river and thought of the first day. The wallet, the bag, the ink that had not smudged. He pulled the old original page from his pocket, creased and soft, the plan that had traveled miles inside a small shirt. He unfolded it and smiled at the wear. The page had done its job. It had changed rooms. Whatever happened after, people would remember the day a man whose job was to notice small messes noticed a small object that could open a big door. They would remember that he chose to walk into a difficult room without trembling, carrying a clear bag and a clear plan. They would remember that when the story tried to call him a thief, he stood near a whiteboard while people wrote their names in straight lines. They would remember that power can move like a storm or like a hand passing a bus pass across a table. Both change weather. One builds trust. The other leaves you wet and shivering. Darius chose the first. And he chose it again and again, in every small act afterward, until the choice no longer felt like a hero move. It felt like common sense. One evening, as he left the shelter late, Anna called to tell him a reporter wanted to do a long piece on the fund. "They'll ask about the wallet," she warned. "They always do." Darius laughed, soft. "I'll tell them it held cards and a key," he said. But it wasn't the key that opened the door. It was the plan. He walked into the night. The city hummed. His shoes clicked on the pavement. Somewhere in a high office, a man looked at a glass wall and saw not his face, but the faces of the people who now walked in with their heads a little higher. And that is how a simple truth became a long echo. A janitor found a wallet and returned it. But more than that, he returned a promise to the people who keep buildings breathing. He did not pocket coins. He did not pocket pride. He pocketed nothing but a folded plan and the names of people who believed in writing their future in pen. He chose his story before any camera did. He stayed steady when the room tried to shake him. He made rich men sign on the line where it matters. And in the end, when people asked what shocked the billionaire owner, it was not the honesty. Men like that have seen honest men before. What shocked him was the way honesty came with a blueprint that did not ask for a favor, only a fair chance. The title of this story is More Than a Headline. It is a map others can follow with clear steps, clear costs, and clear hands. It begins and ends the same way because some things are worth repeating out loud so the walls themselves remember. Black janitor found a wallet. What he did next shocked the billionaire owner.